J.D. Vance filled in for the slain Charlie Kirk today on the Charlie Kirk Show, and his very unrealistic accounts that fly in the face of Kirk's body of work are now trending, as well as his bizarre call to action for the MAGA extremist. I have a breakdown of it all, including some reactions that you don't want to miss, coming up next. Now, Mr. Vice President, please set the scene for us.
J.D. Vance here, live from my office in the White House complex, and filling in for somebody who cannot be filled in for, but I'm going to try to do my best, my dear friend, the great Charlie Kirk. The last several days have been extremely hard for our country. They've been hard for me, hard for my family, hard for the countless people in this building who knew and loved Charlie Kirk, and of course, they've been hardest most of all for his darling wife, Erica, and their two beautiful children.
That was actually a nice tribute, and the fact that Kirk was a family man should never be diminished. Now, J.D., please tell us about his value to the Trump administration. And whatever you do, don't use the phrase political operative to describe him, because that would be super weird if inserted into a eulogy, and such language would be telling of how a politically devious mind puts people in boxes based on their strategic value.
The thing is, every single person in this building, we owe something to Charlie. He was a joyful warrior for our country. He loved America. He devoted himself tirelessly to making our country a better place. He was a critical part of getting Donald Trump elected as president, getting me elected as vice president. And so much of our success over the last 7 months is due to his efforts, his staffing, his support, and his friendship. I don't think that I'm alone in saying that Charlie was the smartest political operative I ever met.
And now, J.D., please give us some bullet points about the man you described as a political operative. And I promise not to criticize. I'll let Charlie speak for himself.
Everyone knew him as this fearless debater, this guy who would take the conservative message into hostile places.
You're going to remove my appendix and you're a black lesbian. See a black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman. I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action?
Charlie was a visionary. He was a luminary.
And Justice Clarence Thomas are far better black role models to celebrate than Martin Luther King. Period. End of story. This guy is not worthy of a national holiday. He is not worthy of godlike status. In fact, I think it's really harmful.
He created a whole social network for an entire generation of young people.
You think children should have... You should see it. What is the age? At what age should you start to see public executions? I want to watch that execution. That'll make my day better. I want to see him on a public block and get him be publicly executed.
It was heartbreaking, and it was sad, and it was terrible.
I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that it does a lot of damage. But
we talked about some of our favorite stories. We talked about some of his idiosyncrasies and all the things that made Charlie Kirk who he was.
Is in Leviticus 18, is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. Just saying.
And that was operative Charlie Kirk with all of his idiosyncrasies, his words. And now let's look at some reactions to J.D. Vance's inflammatory words that followed. Richard Haas said, if you were ever wondering if J.D. Vance is a morally devoid psychopath, here he is lying his ass off.
Of course, we have to make sure that the killer is brought to justice. And importantly, we have to talk about this incredibly destructive movement of left-wing extremism that has grown up over the last few years, and I believe is part of the reason why Charlie was killed by an assassin's bullet. We're going to talk about how to dismantle that and how to bring real unity that can only come when we tell the truth, and everybody knows that they can speak their mind about the issues of the day without being cut down by a murderer's gun.
John Favreau said this about a wild claim Vance made later. It is not a statistical fact at all. I wouldn't make an assertion like that about the right without evidence, and I'm just a podcaster, not the Vice President of the United States. Incredibly irresponsible.
And while our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies, it is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left.
And Tim Miller said this about Vance calling on all members of the MAGA cult to become political operatives and report those who speak out against Kirk's legacy.
But you
have a role too. Civil society, Charlie understood this well, is not just something that flows from the government. It flows from each and every one of us. It flows from all of us. So when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer.
Donald Trump's White House will stop at nothing to further exploit and weaponize Charlie Kirk's murder to create more division and create havoc for Democrat states, cities, and citizens. And by calling Charlie Kirk a political operative, Vance stripped away any veneer of humanization before switching to his bizarre call to action. He reduced Kirk to a campaign asset and asked the base to satisfy their need for red meat by reporting their neighbors. J.D. Vance's words were weird, but that's not all. They were another flashing red light about how far Trump's White House is willing to go. Vance wasn't remembering Kirk as much as he was recruiting more political operatives off of his grave. And based on what we just saw from Kirk, I don't think he would mind the extremism at all. I'm Dan. Thanks for watching. Please leave your thoughts with a comment below, and let's continue to occupy democracy together.